And good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick Herstich. So I'm a product leader in the industrials vertical with a significant focus on regulated products and solutions for transportation and DOT. So as Olive mentioned, we are humbled and honored today to be joined by three of our key clients in the transportation space that will help me facilitate a client panel really aimed at providing insights into industry trends. So we're going to take a few minutes at the beginning here to meet our client panelists, Kesi Dorner from Transdev, Daigle from LAZ Parking, and James Brewer from EA Sween. So starting with Kesi, would you mind just taking a moment to talk about who you are, who you work for, and your relationship with Sterling?
Sure, Nick. So my name is Kesi Dorner. I'm the Vice President of Human Resource for Transdev. We've been with Sterling for 14 years. I've been with the company for 13 years. In that time, I've managed Sterling for 2 years. We're the largest transportation provider in the country. We use Sterling for criminal background checks, random drug testing, our DOT physicals, along with MVR checks and a host of other products.
Great. Thank you so much, Kesi. It's a real pleasure to have you here. Eric, would you mind taking a minute to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Eric Daigle. I'm the head of people and culture for LAZ Parking. We are the largest privately held parking and management services organization in the United States, operating in 36 states and a little over 440 cities. Our relationship with Sterling spans a little over 3 years. It began with pre-employment activities, and after a period of realizing successes through Sterling's platforms, we added on the DOT compliance services as a result of our relationship with Sterling. So we're happy to be here today.
Great, thanks, Eric, and we're happy to have you here. And last but not least, James, can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you work for and your overall relationship with Sterling?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm James Brewer. I'm the Talent Acquisitions Manager here at EA Sween Company, more commonly known as Deli Express. If everybody has had a chuck wagon or a chicken and Swiss before, we produce those here in Minnesota. I've been here at the company 3 years. We've been with Sterling for, I believe, 3.5 years. So we do a lot of delivery to different convenience stores across the market, and obviously use the services for our DOT and pre-employment screenings. And it's been fantastic so far. So thank you, everyone, for being here.
Great. And thanks, James. Maybe for the next roundtable that we have you on, maybe we can do a parting gift of a sandwich or something for all of our participants. So let's move on to our first discussion point. I think we've got a good idea of who's in the room with us now. Driver shortages. So a conversation that we have quite often with our prospects and our clients, and we understand there's a significant challenge in today's market. Replacing those drivers can be both costly and really result in a significant, operational challenge. So we will start with Eric from LAZ here. Can you discuss a little bit about any recruitment and retention programs that LAZ has put in place or maybe is exploring that will help have an edge in this ultra competitive market?
Well, as you shared, Nicholas, obviously it is a highly competitive market. As an operator that operates and employs across a highly sort of dispersed geographical area, we've had to disperse a brand new talent acquisition team to combat what we've described as obviously the war on talent, a highly competitive market with candidly a shortage with DOT qualified drivers. From that perspective, we've really had to kind of go back to the drawing board in terms of, our starting hiring rates. We've had to implement retention bonuses, in many cases, hiring bonuses, just to get people into the organization. The one thing I will say is, we've had to move very, very quickly in hiring. And so that's sort of translated to hiring on the spot, which we've never done before, but also leveraging Sterling's platform of sort of technology that allows for quicker onboarding of our employees in a timely fashion that doesn't compromise safety as we look to continue to recruit and work against this overall shortage.
Great. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Our speed is of the essence without sacrificing that quality. James, from EA Sween, what sort of programs have you put in place that you've seen be successful from the recruitment and retention aspect for drivers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are looking at obviously an aging driver workforce. I mean, we're really trying to focus on people that might be switching or looking for different career paths. I think I saw a stat the other day that there's a lot of hospitality people moving out of hospitality or food to trying a different career. So we're really targeting those individuals to try to build them up and get people in the new workforce for drivers, because the aging workforce, there's less drivers. So we're trying to find any way we can, with non-CDL and CDL drivers, because we, work with both. So we're looking at stockers, warehouse associates, merchandisers, even really, we're seeing a lot of bus drivers and city bus drivers switching into non-traditional CDL roles, and just trying to, look at different competitive pay, weekly pay, daily pay, even at different points, just to really try to boost attracting new people to the roles. So that's a big thing that we're focused on, and just even, increasing, drivers want to be home too. So instead of being over the road, trying to give more availability to being able to be home on a day-to-day basis instead of being on the road 7, 10, 12 days. So we're really focusing on that aspect.
Interesting. Yeah. The aging driver population is definitely a lot of concern. I think the average age right now is somewhere around 50 years. So identifying, those potential candidates who might not have traditionally applied for a driver role and, influencing them into maybe looking at that is a great approach. All right. So Kesi, anything, what in addition to what Eric and James have mentioned, is Transdev doing, maybe, more from the retention piece?
Yeah, it's all very similar. We actually have 13,000 employees, Transdev, but 10,000 are operators. Of that 10,000, as you mentioned, aging workforce, I think the average age is 56. We have 32% turnover. So because it's an aging workforce, we focus on wellness programs. We have focused on increasing bonuses. We are about 85% unionized. So we've gone back to union tables to renegotiate starting wages. So we're increasing starting wages. We've started hiring non-CDL drivers and doing more training. So very similar to Eric, to James, just going out to community centers, reaching out to different venues. We've tried everything as well.
Sure. One interesting thing you mentioned there that was maybe a little bit different than what we heard from the first two panelists is, beyond investing from a financial perspective, you mentioned wellness, which I think is very important, right? The health and wellness of these employees can lead to, longer term employment rates. So
Yes.
Great. So again, thanks so much to the panelists. Again, very interesting to hear kind of the similar strategies around, increased wages, buffering the talent acquisition resources, signing bonuses, better routes, and really kind of exploring non-traditional, what we would call non-traditional driving candidates as, potential solutions. Eric and I discussed it a little bit earlier. We goes without saying, speed, is really of the essence when trying to fill these driver requisitions. And, from a fulfillment perspective, Sterling's always been fast, but beyond that, it's the quality of the results that we really pride ourselves in, and we find equally as important as speed. So getting that right person through the door while balancing, as much risk mitigation as you can to make sure that that person's a good fit for your company culture is paramount. And at Sterling, we really see ourselves as an extension of your organization. It's a critical step, the background piece to candidates. It's really their first experience of the new job. So I'm going to shift the discussion here a little bit, and I'm going to start with James this time. And James, would you mind just talking a little bit about the importance of speed, getting a driver through the door, but also getting that right candidate, and then the role that Sterling plays with that partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree 100%. Sterling sometimes is our first really big interaction with our employees. So if that part doesn't start off well, it could be terrible. The candidates could get frustrated and leave. And that's one thing I like with Sterling is we've had great interaction, or if something does happen, we resolve it really quickly, which is very minimal at times. So that's been huge. Obviously culture is very important to us. I mean, we that's our values. We value people most of all at our company. So finding a strong person that wants to be invested in the company and be a part of that is huge. We're delivering to 7-Eleven on a day-to-day basis, and other convenience stores. So that speed to hire, we typically, it's slowing down a little bit just with everything going on, but getting stuff done within 8 to 10 hours is huge. So we can get people turned and started within a week or 2 weeks at the max. Because if we're down a driver, we still have to make the deliveries. And I'm sure a lot of your companies are the same, that if we can't make a delivery, we're not meeting our end of the contract. And that's just like huge, because we have a combined P&L with our partners, and we have to hold our side up no matter what. So that means overtime. That means managers jumping in a truck to make deliveries. We brought on some non-CDL fleet, so warehouse associates can jump in a truck if we need to. So we're making everything we can, because we have to make our contracts and our obligations that we have out there. So that's a big part. I mean, even splitting routes and doing different things, but we got to hold up, and the faster we can get someone in, it's the better. And I know my team that I work with, Sterling, when I'm talking to them, they're like, yep, we'll get it done. Let's get it done. And they help. And, that's the one thing I love about it. So. Sure.
Yeah. And we value that partnership too, James, for sure. Great. Thank you so much. Kesi, thoughts on, the value of your Sterling partnership and getting that right candidate through the door quickly and to make sure it's a good fit for your company culture.
Yeah, we've also tasked our recruiting team with calling candidates within 24 hours of applying. Again, it's so competitive. We have to jump quickly. Otherwise, Eric and James will get my same candidate. So we are moving quickly. We send them for drug tests right away. We sometimes have delays with the MROs. When I jump on the phone with JJ or Tim, they contact the MRO. They really help keep things moving. But yeah, that turnaround is so important. Same thing as James. We're paying overtime. Supervisors are driving. So we're public transit. So we're picking up passengers in the communities. When there's no drivers, we have no routes going out. There is damage, or we pay financial damages to the client. So speed is important, but also making sure they pass criminal background checks, DOT physicals. So that's very important. And Sterling's been great with helping us get that done.
Yeah, Kesi, and I think you would attest to that, you've been a long-term client with Sterling, but there's no such thing as status quo with your types of programs. We're constantly looking for ways to innovate and push your boundaries so that, things can be done more expeditiously. So
yeah, and we've done that with electronic chain of custody forms.
Sure.
To really move things quicker too.
Exactly. Perfect. All right, Eric, how critical would you say Sterling's relationship is to your mission to hire the right people?
Yeah, I mean, again, we've implemented, hiring on the spot, but that's only one element. Obviously, we need to ensure the safety and security of the general communities in which we serve. So we're not going to compromise by hiring contingently before we've, really, gone through our traditional processes. But, when we transitioned to Sterling, I think we cut our sort of pre-employment background screening processes by close to 50% in terms of timing. And that's what allowed for us to be able to sort of bolster our relationship and incorporate some of the DOT service elements on it. But, we found Sterling to be very flexible in terms of, the services they've offered, offering oral swabs in some regards where, that was cutting down on the coordination of drug screenings with sort of the traditional clinics, if you will. So that's been, hugely successful for our organization, because there's no question when you're short-staffed, it impacts not only your service levels, but creates a financial burden to your organization through the payment of overtime, higher instances of employee injuries on the job, which obviously translates to added costs in how we do business. Never mind the fact that culturally it's not part of our values to be asking our employees to do more than what is reasonable for one employee. So we've really put a lot of pressure on our frontline recruiting teams to really be sort of nimble. And again, our relationship with Sterling has offered flexible workarounds for us to be able to get employees onboarded in a much more efficient way, again, without compromising the safety of the general public.
It's interesting, Eric, because when you think of background screening partners and you think of the word turnaround time or speed, right? You think of, most of the time you think of just how fast are the products getting fulfilled. And I think what gets lost in some of the conversation, the shuffle, is exactly what you talked about. It's how much administrative work can we take from your team and build it into our processes and our automation to free them up to do things, that they're supposed to be doing. And I think that's where our partnership has really shined over the years. And I couldn't agree more. The communication is really critical between our companies. And when you're looking at a background partner, I know it's one of the reasons we've been so successful with these type of programs. And it's really echoed throughout, I think, each answer from all of our panelists, that Sterling's a key element to help ensure that operational efficiency. Within these organizations, with your hiring processes, and without that level of dedication that you get from the Sterling team, there could be potential negative business impacts on your side. So all very interesting. So I think we're going to wrap up the session here in the next couple minutes, and it might be interesting and beneficial, I think, for our audience to hear the panel's perspective on where they might see the transportation industry moving in the next few years. So quick round robin, and I'll start with Kesi. Your thoughts on industry trends in transportation for the next 1 to 3 years?
I hate to say it, but I think we're going to continue having these challenges recruiting with this workforce aging and newer generations not going into driving. We're going to continue seeing these challenges and it may get worse. But then we also have self-driving vehicles. So Transdev actually manages several properties of self-driving vehicles. So that's coming. I think finding new ways to recruit, that'll always be a challenge for us. And then just changes in technology. We're going to see those changes affect transit.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. Eric, what are your thoughts here on the industry trends for the next few years?
Yeah, not unlike what Kesi, shared. Obviously, we too expect this shortage of labor to continue for at least the foreseeable future. We are, obviously working to, form relationships with driver training schools and become sort of preferred partners for their graduating students. We're considering, offering our own driver training services internally and assisting with, gaining required licenses to be able to operate our DOT regulated equipment. So, these are things we've never had to do before, but we expect that will be a need in the future, given this competitive landscape and really a shortage of talent in the marketplace, nationally. So.
Sure. All right, James, your final thoughts on the vision for the industry in the next few years.
I think we're all three on point. I think there's going to be a lot more automation, and nuances to the delivering. I think that's going to be a big thing. I think it's going to continue to be really tough to fill jobs, and we're going to have to be very creative. We're going to have to find new ways. And I think you're just going to see more and more drivers that are on the road long-term wanting to be home and less over the road driving. And I think that's going to make a huge impact on the overall structure of getting products places. So,
yeah,
but I think we're all on the same sort of direction.
Yeah, I think it's clear that technology will certainly play a key role, both from the recruitment and onboarding perspective, which is why you partnered, with somebody like Sterling, but also, potentially operationally, where you have, technology and automation, physically moving people and goods. Interesting times to come for sure. So thank you again to the panelists. This wraps up the client panel portion of the roundtable. Super thankful to have representation from some of our key clients, and it really is hard to put value on relationships like this, but there's no doubt it's critical to our mutual success. So thank you for the meaningful dialogue, Kesi, James, and Eric. Much appreciated.